A weary female intern dozed off on the shoulder of a stranger aboard a crowded bus, blissfully unaware that he was a millionaire CEO. In that fleeting moment of vulnerability, an unexpected spark ignited, leading her heart to race with an intoxicating blend of curiosity and infatuation. The bus doors hissed open, and Emily staggered inside, the weight of exhaustion pressing heavily on her every step. The night air outside was sharp and invigorating, yet within the confines of the vehicle, a heavy atmosphere enveloped the weary commuters, each one lost in their own thoughts, the weight of the day pressing down on them. With a fierce grip on her bag, she swept her gaze across the sea of seats, searching desperately for an unoccupied refuge. Her head pounded relentlessly, and her feet screamed in protest after an exhausting 12-hour day at the marketing firm, where she toiled as an intern. The city lights raced by, their brilliance distorted through the foggy windows, creating a dance of flickering reflections that played upon the faces of the passengers. Then her eyes caught it. A solitary empty seat nestled in the heart of the bus. With determination, she glided down the aisle, her heart racing, before sinking into the seat, a breath of relief escaping her lips. Only after she found her place did she become aware of the man seated next to her. In his early 30s, he stood out, clad in a tailored navy suit, the loosened tie hinting at a story just waiting to unfold. His dark hair lay in disarray, tousled as if he had raked his fingers through it one too many times that day, hinting at the turmoil brewing within him. With a sharp jawline and piercing green eyes, he exuded an aura of quiet authority. Yet, he remained an enigma, his gaze fixed on the window as the city blurred past, a whirlwind of life and chaos beyond his stillness. Megan barely acknowledged him. Her body ached with exhaustion, each muscle screaming for respite, while her mind throbbed under the weight of relentless meetings and the suffocating pressure to prove her worth. As the bus lurched violently over a gaping pothole, she released a soft sigh, surrendering to the moment as her eyelids fluttered shut. She whispered to herself that it would be just a fleeting moment of rest. The bus lurched violently, causing her head to tilt precariously to the side. Unbeknownst to her, she found herself leaning against the stranger's shoulder, her cheek sinking into the plush fabric of his suit jacket. The rhythmic hum of the engine wrapped around her like a warm blanket, while the gentle rocking of the vehicle coaxed her into a deeper, dream-filled slumber. Alex, the formidable CEO of a towering business empire in the heart of the city, felt a sudden tension ripple through him as an unexpected pressure pressed against his side. He turned his head, his gaze falling upon the young woman who had found solace against him, her head resting softly on his shoulder. Though his first urge was to pull back, an unseen force held him in place. She appeared completely drained, her fragile features gently illuminated by the embrace of slumber. Strands of chestnut hair tumbled across her face, and her lips parted ever so slightly as she drew in a breath. Her exhaustion was evident, a rare moment of openness in their guarded world. He couldn't help but find a twisted amusement in her unguarded trust. In the shadows, a figure, clad in a sleek black suit, emerged, almost blending into the darkness. He leaned in, his voice barely a whisper, cutting through the silence like a knife. "Sir, do you want me to wake her?" Daniel's lips curled into a subtle smirk, a flicker of mischief dancing in his eyes as he shook his head. "No," he murmured, his voice a low, steady whisper. "Let her sleep." The assistant paused, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. "But sir," a fleeting look from Daniel brought an abrupt hush to the room. The bus pressed onward, enveloped in a tapestry of hushed conversations and the sporadic blare of horns, each sound weaving into the fabric of the journey. Megan, lost in the depths of her dreams, sighed softly as she nestled closer, oblivious to the identity of the shoulder that offered her solace. Daniel couldn't help but let out a soft chuckle, a secret amusement bubbling within him. Yet, the fleeting tranquility shattered almost instantly. The bus came to a sudden halt, jolting Megan from her slumber, her brow knitted in confusion, and as she drew a deep breath, her eyes fluttered open to the world around her. Initially, she found herself in a haze, her thoughts tangled in a web of fatigue and the starkness of reality. In that moment, a chilling clarity washed over her as the truth of her surroundings sank in. In that moment, she understood the weight of the presence she was relying on. "Oh my God," she gasped, shooting upright with such urgency that she almost collided with Daniel's face. He arched an eyebrow, a smirk playing on his lips as he reveled in her mounting panic. I'm so sorry," she stammered, her cheeks aflame with embarrassment. As her eyes fluttered shut, she found herself nestled against the warmth of a complete stranger, surrendering to the embrace of sleep. Even more troubling, an irresistibly captivating stranger. Before Daniel could utter a word, Megan's gaze darted to the window, her body going rigid as if time itself had come to a standstill. It was her stop. She had missed her stop ages ago. "Hold on. What just happened?" "No, no, no." With frantic urgency, she lunged for her bag. In her frantic haste, her elbow collided with a paper cup perched precariously in the cup holder beside Daniel. The lid burst open, sending a cascade of dark liquid splattering across his pristine white shirt. Megan's breath caught in her throat, a sharp gasp escaping her lips as dread washed over her. "Oh no." Daniel's gaze fell upon the darkening stain, his face a mask of inscrutable emotions. The assistant standing nearby tensed, a palpable tension radiating from their form. "My lord." Megan snatched a handful of napkins from her bag, her instincts kicking in as she lunged forward, pressing the fabric against his shirt with urgency. "I am deeply, profoundly sorry. Certainly, I'll cover the cost of the dry cleaning. Or, I have the power to do so." Daniel's laughter erupted unexpectedly, a deep, resonant sound that took her by surprise. Her eyes widened as she stared up at him, confusion swirling in her mind. "Don't worry about it," he said smoothly, a glint of amusement dancing in his green eyes. "It seems I owe you something, especially after that rather indulgent nap you enjoyed." Megan let out a low groan, her hands instinctively flying to her face as a wave of embarrassment washed over her. Megan gripped her bag with white knuckles as she dashed off the bus, her heart pounding wildly from the humiliating encounter that lingered in her mind. Drifting off on a stranger's shoulder felt like a betrayal of trust, a precarious moment teetering on the edge of vulnerability. Coffee spilled, staining his shirt. Her apologies poured out in a frantic stream, her hands trembling as they pressed against his shirt, desperate to mend the chaos she had caused. Yet, in her whirlwind of anxiety, she failed to truly see the expression etched across his face. As she raced down the street toward her apartment, the entire experience transformed into a chaotic, sleep-deprived haze, each moment slipping away, like sand, through her fingers. Megan faced the mirror, her hands deftly smoothing the blazer over her blouse, each movement charged with anticipation. Today marked a pivotal moment, the day of the intern presentation. After weeks of relentless toil, she and her fellow interns stood on the brink of a pivotal moment, ready to unveil their ideas to the company's senior executives. Countless late nights had slipped away as she poured her heart into refining her project, driven by an urgent need to prove herself. With the stakes higher than ever, nailing this presentation could be her ticket to a permanent position. With a surge of adrenaline, she inhaled sharply, snatched her laptop, and burst through the door. Megan stepped into the expansive conference hall, its glass walls amplifying the palpable tension that hung in the air. A group of interns sat in a tense silence, their hushed whispers weaving a tapestry of anxiety in the air around them. At the head of the long mahogany table, a cadre of executives loomed, their polished exteriors gleaming with an aura of power and authority that filled the room. Her stomach knotted with tension. This was the moment. Just as she settled into her seat, the main doors burst open once more. The air thickened with anticipation as a man in a sharp navy suit entered the room, his very presence demanding immediate focus from all who were present. Megan's eyes flicked to the newcomer, and she nearly gasped, the air catching in her throat. A figure emerged from the shadows of the bus, the man on whose shoulder she had let her longing spill. The man whose shirt she had irrevocably tarnished. But he was far from an ordinary stranger. He was Alex, the formidable CEO who commanded the entire company. Megan felt a chill seep into her veins. Daniel glided to the head of the table, claiming his seat with an air of effortless composure that hinted at the storm brewing beneath the surface. He met her gaze, yet his expression remained a blank canvas, betraying nothing of his thoughts. Megan, in stark contrast, sensed as if her very soul had detached from her body, drifting away into an abyss of despair. How could this be unfolding before my eyes? She cast another furtive glance in his direction. He lounged at the table, one elbow propped up, his fingers drumming a restless rhythm against the gleaming surface. His emerald green eyes sparkled with a flicker of amusement, yet he chose to remain silent, the air thick with unspoken words. Could he truly have forgotten her? Or was he merely putting on a facade? A chilling sensation raced down her spine. As the first light of dawn broke through the horizon, a new day began, and with it, a sense of anticipation filled the air. "Good morning, everyone," echoed a voice, stirring the hearts of those gathered, ready to embrace whatever adventures lay ahead. Daniel's voice flowed like silk, exuding an air of unwavering confidence. "Let the adventure begin. I can't wait to discover what you've crafted for us." Megan's heart pounded violently within her chest, each beat echoing like a drum of impending doom. Today had unfolded in a way she could never have anticipated. One by one, the interns rose to the occasion, ready to unveil their projects, each moment thick with anticipation. Some stumbled over their words, their nerves palpable, while others exuded a smooth, assured eloquence that captivated the room. Megan steeled her resolve, shoving her rising anxiety into the shadows of her mind. At last, the moment she had been waiting for had come. With a determined breath, she rose, her fingers gliding over the fabric of her blouse as she made her way to the front of the room. As she readied herself to start, an unsettling awareness of Daniel's intense gaze bore down on her. "Angel, our Nagi, a worrying room, and Daniel's in." "Good morning," she began, her voice unwavering even as a storm raged within her mind. "My name is Emily, and today I stand before you to unveil a groundbreaking digital marketing strategy, meticulously crafted to captivate and engage the elusive Gen Z conceit consumers." With each word that escaped her lips, she began to uncover a cadence that felt both powerful and alive. As the walls dissolved into nothingness, only she and her creation lingered in the void. With each slide she clicked through, the room fell silent, captivated by her insights into the shifting tides of social media trends. She wove a narrative of data-driven engagement strategies, each point building anticipation, before unveiling her bold proposal for an innovative campaign that promised to breathe new life into the company's brand appeal. As she approached her final slide, a palpable sense of confidence enveloped her, igniting a spark of determination within. With a final nod, she stepped back from the podium, the weight of her words lingering in the air. For a fleeting moment, the room held its breath in an eerie silence. Then a wave of polite applause rippled through the room. She released a slow breath, a wave of relief washing over her. It was only when Daniel leaned forward, shattering the stillness, that the air thickened with anticipation. "Impressive presentation," he remarked, his voice smooth and effortless, as if weaving a spell around the room. Yet, a question lingers in my mind." Megan's body tensed, a sudden wave of unease washing over her. Without a doubt, a question lingered in his mind. Daniel tilted his head slightly, his eyes shimmering with an enigmatic intensity. "You pointed out that our current digital outreach fails to connect with Gen Z consumers," he said. "Recent analytics reveal a thrilling surge in engagement on our TikTok platform, soaring by an impressive 27% in the last quarter. In light of that, which particular data set did you rely on to substantiate your assertion?" In the stillness, a profound silence enveloped the air, thick and heavy, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for something to break the quiet. A tense silence enveloped the room, as several interns exchanged uneasy glances, each one silently questioning what would happen next. Megan sensed the weight of every gaze upon her. This was a trial, a moment suspended in time, where uncertainty lingered in the air, waiting to unfold its secrets. She swallowed hard, a wave of tension coursing through her as she fought to maintain her composure. "That's a great point," she replied, her spine aligning with newfound determination. "A staggering 27% surge has emerged, fueled predominantly by the captivating allure of short-form content intertwined with influencer collaborations. Yet, the bond we once shared with our audience has begun to fray, as evidenced by a troubling 15% drop in the loyalty that our brand once inspired. My research delves deep into this critical aspect, driving my proposed strategy to prioritize retention over mere fleeting viral success. A heartbeat of stillness. Then, Daniel's lips twisted into a sly grin, hinting at secrets untold. With a slight nod, he acknowledged the argument, his expression thoughtful and engaged. Megan's mind raced, struggling to grasp the whirlwind of events that had just unfolded, when suddenly, another executive's voice cut through the tension, redirecting the conversation into uncharted territory. Yet, as she made her way back to her seat, the weight of Daniel's gaze lingered, an unspoken tension crackling in the air around her. And in that moment, as she stood there, a shiver ran down her spine. She realized, with an undeniable certainty, that he remembered her. As the final presentation drew to a close, Megan exhaled softly, a wave of relief washing over her as she finally permitted herself to unwind. She had finally done it. The sudden intensity of Daniel's question sent tremors through her, yet she stood firm, refusing to waver, and he had faced the truth. As the meeting drew to a close, an unsettling sensation clung to her, whispering that something was amiss. Daniel's gaze had been fixed on her, unwavering and intense, throughout the entire ordeal. As she collected her belongings, her gaze fell upon his assistant, making their way toward her. Their demeanor, a blend of courtesy and an enigmatic calm that sent a shiver down her spine. "Miss Carter," the man said, his voice low and laden with unspoken tension. "Mr. Reed is requesting your presence in his office." Megan's eyes fluttered open, a moment of uncertainty hanging in the air. "Me?" The assistant gave a subtle nod, a silent acknowledgement that hung in the air, thick with unspoken tension. A handful of interns huddled nearby, their eyes widening as they exchanged furtive glances, curiosity igniting between them like a spark in the dark. Megan could sense the weight of their unspoken questions searing into her back. With determination in her eyes, she nodded, squared her shoulders, and stepped forward, trailing the assistant through the shimmering corridors of the corporate edifice. As Megan crossed the threshold into the expansive corner office, a wave of surprise washed over her. The atmosphere was a stark contrast to the formidable CEO presence Daniel had projected in the boardroom. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the city skyline, casting a breathtaking view that captivated the senses. The sleek, modern furniture added a touch of elegance, yet the atmosphere remained warm and inviting, drawing one in with its charm. On the shelves, a few personal treasures lingered. A framed photo capturing a fleeting moment, a watch lying silently atop a leather-bound notebook, each item whispering stories of the past, subtle nuances that breathed life into his humanity. Daniel lingered by the window, his silhouette framed against the fading light, hands buried deep in his pockets, oblivious to her presence. Silence enveloped him, stretching out like a taut string. As he hesitated, words caught in his throat. Then, without turning, he inquired, "You always manage to respond so adeptly when the pressure is on." Megan paused, her heart racing as she weighed her words carefully. "It's only in those moments when the questioner seeks to catch me unawares." It drew a soft chuckle from him, a sound that lingered in the air like a fleeting whisper of amusement. He finally pivoted to confront her, his arms tightly crossed over his chest, a silent storm brewing in his gaze. The sharp, untouchable CEO who once commanded the conference room had vanished, leaving only a lingering sense of intrigue in their wake. The man standing before her now wore an expression of deep curiosity. "I summoned you here for a reason," he said, his voice dripping with intrigue. "A project lies in my hands, demanding a surge of innovative marketing insight to breathe life into its potential. Your presentation revealed a unique perspective that captivated me, and I want that brilliance on my team." Megan's stomach twisted in a tumultuous dance of anxiety. Could he truly mean it? "You want me on your team?" she echoed, her mind racing to grasp the weight of his words. "I need you to be my temporary assistant," he stated, his voice firm and unwavering. "For this project, you will collaborate closely with me, crafting a strategy that will culminate in a powerful presentation at the final stage." Megan sensed the ground beneath her tremble, as if the very foundation of reality had begun to unravel. This was monumental. Indeed, most interns rarely had the chance to encounter executives, much less the CEO himself, and yet, an unsettling whisper lingered in the air, suggesting that this was a mirage too good to be true. Her mind surged with a torrent of questions, each one more urgent than the last. Why her? Among all the interns, did he see her on the bus, and was he toying with her in some twisted game? Or was he genuinely convinced of her abilities? She paused, uncertainty gripping her heart. Mr. Reed? Indeed, Daniel? He adjusted his words with a seamless grace. If we're going to be in this together, let's skip the formalities and get real. Megan felt a jolt of surprise at his nonchalant tone. Had he always been this way? But was this truly meant for her alone? She swallowed hard, the weight of the moment pressing down on her like a heavy fog. A twist no one saw coming. His lips quivered with unspoken thoughts. Is that a resounding yes? Megan's mind raced with possibilities. This chance had the power to transform her entire career. Collaborating with Daniel Reed could unlock opportunities she had never dared to imagine. Yet, it held the potential to unleash a torrent of troubles, and those problems emerged far earlier than she had anticipated. When Megan stepped back into the intern workspace, the air was thick with hushed murmurs, swirling around her like a tempest. I caught wind that she was summoned to his office. It was likely nothing more than a mere formality. No, I heard he extended an offer to her. In my own experience. Megan feigned ignorance, her gaze locked onto the glowing screen before her, as if it held the answers to unspoken questions. Then, a voice snickered from the shadows, cutting through the tension like a knife. She possesses a captivating beauty. That likely made a difference. Megan's fingers stilled, suspended above her keyboard, as if caught in a moment of breathless anticipation. Her heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. Absolutely, despite her relentless efforts to establish her worth. The moment she stepped into the spotlight, whispers filled the air, suggesting that her selection was merely a result of her appearance. Not because she had delivered one of the most captivating presentations. Not merely because she had faced a CEO's question with unwavering confidence. Not because she was exceptionally skilled at her craft. She stood alone, a solitary figure amidst a sea of men. With her jaw clenched tight, Megan battled to maintain a facade of calm. Very well. Very well. If they wished to see her as less than she was, so be it. For when she finally shattered their doubts, the sweetness of victory would be unparalleled. Megan soon discovered that being under the direct influence of Daniel Reed was a double-edged sword, offering both the thrill of opportunity and the weight of formidable challenges. He was razor-sharp, commanding attention with an intensity that was hard to ignore. His mind raced ahead, slicing through the clutter of unnecessary details and pinpointing crucial insights before anyone else even caught a glimpse of them. And yet, in the shadow of his formidable presence, he never hovered over her, allowing her the freedom to navigate her own path. Instead, he dared her. That's a strong foundation. Yet, what steps can we take to elevate it further? Your instincts are sharp, but they need the weight of solid data to truly shine. Keep the whispers of the competition to yourself. Reveal to me the actions they are neglecting. Megan had believed she was ready for the pressure, but nothing could have prepared her for the electrifying intensity of working alongside Daniel. Yet, she flourished amidst the chaos. With each passing day, she soaked up his teachings, transforming and evolving in ways she never imagined possible. For the first time, she sensed a shift within her, a spark igniting that whispered she was more than just an intern. She felt the weight of a grand destiny upon her shoulders. Yet, true to his nature, Daniel seized every chance to provoke her with playful jabs. One fateful afternoon, as the echoes of their brainstorming session faded, Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, a spark of mischief dancing in his eyes. You know, he mused, a sly grin creeping across his face. I was beginning to wonder when you'd finally succumb to sleep in this office. Shall I fetch you a pillow this time? Megan's coffee threatened to escape her lips as she gasped in shock. Her eyes burned with intensity as she shot him a piercing glare. Will I ever escape the shadow of that moment? Not a chance, he said smoothly, a slow smirk curling at the corners of his lips. Megan let out a frustrated groan, her hands instinctively shielding her face from the world around her. Fatigue weighed heavily on me. He let out a low, rumbling chuckle that echoed in the stillness, a sound that hinted at secrets untold and mysteries lurking just beneath the surface. Ah, I understand completely. Do you recall the moment when your drool dripped onto my shoulder? Her jaw fell open in disbelief. I did not. Daniel arched an eyebrow, a silent challenge flickering in his gaze. Megan let out another deep groan, the sound echoing her frustration. My heart burns with a fierce intensity, a tempest of emotions swirling within me. You frustrate me sometimes. Absolutely not. With a swift motion, she launched a crumpled napkin at him, the air crackling with tension. As the clock ticked past the hour when the office usually fell silent, Megan navigated the dimly lit corridors, her footsteps echoing in the stillness. Just as she approached her desk, a flicker of light caught her eye, emanating from the main conference room, casting an eerie glow in the otherwise darkened space. With a heart pounding in her chest, she cautiously leaned in to catch a glimpse within. Daniel sat alone at the long table, his usual confident demeanor now shrouded in an unsettling silence, a palpable tension hanging in the air around him. His elbows sank into the smooth, polished wood, hands intertwined in a tight grip as his eyes bore into the faded photograph that lay before him, each crease and smudge whispering untold stories. Megan paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. This was a matter that did not concern her. Yet, before doubt could creep in, her feet had a mind of their own, propelling her forward. With a hushed breath, she slipped through the door and drew closer to him, the tension in the air palpable. He was oblivious to her presence initially, his mind adrift in a sea of contemplation. Then, with a tender touch, she rested her hand on his shoulder. "Hey," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence. "Are you all right?" Daniel tensed, a flicker of surprise coursing through him at the unexpected contact. For a fleeting moment, Megan felt a chill of uncertainty, fearing he might dismiss her entirely. Instead, he let out a breath, a subtle smile playing at the edges of his lips. "I'm fine," he said, yet the weight of his unspoken words lingered in the air, thick with tension. Megan's eyes darted to the photograph resting on the table, a flicker of curiosity igniting within her. But just as she leaned in to decipher its secrets, Daniel's hand shot out, snatching it away and concealing it in the depths of his pocket. She could have pressed for more, but an instinct whispered to her that, for now, the weight of silence held its own power. A week later, Megan stepped into the high-stakes meeting, her heart racing with a mix of anticipation and resolve. For days, she had immersed herself in the intricate web of marketing projections, meticulously cross-referencing data and ensuring that each slide pulsed with the weight of undeniable numbers. Yet, for some, it seemed that was merely the beginning. One of the senior executives, a staunch traditionalist named Robert, interrupted her mid-sentence, unleashing a torrent of criticism that left her reeling. "This data is weak," he scoffed, his eyes narrowing as he flipped through the printed report, each page a testament to his growing frustration. "Your projections soar into the realm of the unattainable. Your strategy dances on the edge of fantasy, and truthfully, I can't fathom why we are pouring our precious time into this endeavor." Megan's face went pale, as if the very life had been siphoned from her veins. She anticipated resistance. Yes, but the sheer intensity of the open hostility took her by surprise. Yet she steeled herself to uphold her professionalism. "I understand your concerns, Mr. Vaughn," she said, her voice steady yet laced with urgency. "But if you turn to page 7 and examine the trend analysis closely." I glanced over, but he cut me off with a chilling tone. "It's a chaotic mess." "It's a chaotic mess. Your grasp of this industry is clearly lacking." Megan's fingers clenched around the edges of her laptop, her heart racing with anticipation. Just as she opened her mouth to reply, a different voice sliced through the air, commanding attention. "Daniels, enough is enough." His tone was barely a whisper. It was never meant to be. In an instant, the room was enveloped in an eerie silence, all eyes fixated on Daniel, who reclined in his chair, a silent observer of the unfolding drama. "Up until this moment, Miss Carter's analysis draws from the pulse of the market," he continued, his voice steady yet charged with conviction, "and I have unwavering faith in her judgment. When you have a genuine concern, confront it with evidence, not disdain." A heavy silence hung in the air. Vaughn's expression shifted, a storm of irritation brewing alongside the dawning realization that the CEO had just called him out direct. At last, Sir Faunch had murmured, his fingers skimming the pages of the report once more. Megan sat there, her mind racing, utterly stunned. Daniel had stood up for her. In the open light of day, and not out of obligation, but driven by an unwavering belief in her. For the first time since joining the company, a wave of belonging washed over Megan, enveloping her in a warmth she had long yearned for. Megan found herself lost in the shadows of uncertainty, unable to pinpoint the moment it all began. Perhaps it was those late nights spent side by side, where fatigue wove a tapestry that blurred the boundaries between duty and desire. Perhaps it was the intensity in Daniel's gaze, as if she were the sole beacon of significance amidst a sea of faces, drawing him in with an irresistible allure. Perhaps it was the fierce way he had stood up for her in that meeting, igniting a sense of worth within her that no one else had ever managed to evoke. Yet, as the days unfolded, Megan found herself ensnared by an unexpected affection for him. And therein lay the dilemma. Alex was no ordinary man. He commanded a billion-dollar empire as its CEO. A man existed in a realm brimming with power, wealth, and influence. A realm that felt foreign to her very soul. Megan steeled herself and took the necessary steps. She buried it deep, the earth swallowing her secret whole. She buried her feelings deep within, crafting a facade that whispered to her that they were insignificant. She had come with a purpose, focused and determined, yet the magnetic pull of a man who seemed forever beyond her grasp threatened to unravel her resolve. Yet, as the days passed, the struggle to suppress her emotions grew more intense, especially when she discovered that he too was not as indifferent as he seemed. Daniel had always maintained a strict code, never daring to step beyond the boundaries he had set for himself. Yet, there were fleeting moments, fleeting instances. His gaze would linger on her, a silent intensity, whenever he believed she was oblivious to his watchful eyes. In the solitude of their shared moments, his voice took on a new quality, the usual edge giving way to a tender warmth that enveloped her like a comforting embrace. He sought her out with an intensity that suggested her very presence anchored him in a chaotic world. One fateful evening, as they pored over reports in his dimly lit office, Megan's hand slipped, sending a cascade of papers tumbling to the floor. As she leaned down, her fingers brushed against the ground, mirroring Daniel's movements in a synchronized dance of urgency. As their fingers grazed against each other, a spark ignited in the air, a moment suspended in time that held the promise of something deeper. A palpable tension hung in the air. In that fleeting moment, he stood utterly still. She didn't either. He drew back, a sudden tension in the air as he cleared his throat. Exercise greater caution in the future. Chillingly indifferent, as if the world had simply moved on, leaving the echoes of the past behind. Megan clenched her jaw, a fierce determination igniting within her as she fought against the sting that threatened to settle in her chest. It had danced in her mind, a vivid tapestry of dreams and desires. It held no significance. She had to move past this quickly, but then, a conversation unfolded that would alter the course of everything. The hour was late, shadows creeping in as darkness enveloped the world. As the last echoes of footsteps faded away, Megan remained in the dimly lit office, her focus unwavering as she pored over the final details of the report. As she ventured down the dimly lit hallway, the murmur of voices drifted from Daniel's office, pulling her closer with an unshakable curiosity. She had never been the type to listen in on others. In truth, she was far from it. But then, a shadow flickered across the room, igniting a spark of uncertainty that sent shivers down the spine. The air thickened with anticipation, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for the next moment to unfold. Then, what are your true intentions with her? The deep resonance of a man's voice echoed through the air. Megan halted, her foot suspended in the air. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy, as time seemed to stand still. Then came Daniel's voice. What are you trying to say? She's more than just an intern. She's a force that draws you in. He couldn't help but notice her presence, a quiet admiration in his eyes. Megan's heart raced, each beat echoing in her ears. Daniel let out a heavy sigh, the weight of a world pressing down on him. She stands apart. A heavy silence hung in the air. Then his friend released a low, knowing chuckle, the kind that hinted at secrets shared and unspoken truths lingering in the air. A storm is brewing on the horizon. Daniel let out a sharp breath, tension crackling in the air around him. Do you really believe I'm unaware of that? I know I shouldn't be getting involved. She stands on the precipice of her future, a world of possibilities stretching out before her. And he caught himself just in time. It's for the best, Megan gasped, as if the very breath had been stolen from her, leaving her in a suffocating silence. Involvement was the last thing I needed. It's for the best. What had been simmering between them was undeniably real, not merely a figment of her imagination. Yet, it held no significance. Daniel had already forged his decision. Unwavering and resolute, he had crossed the threshold. And now she would too. As dawn broke, casting a soft glow through the office windows, Megan strode into HR, her mind resolute and her heart racing with the weight of her choice. I want to transfer to another department, she declared, with unwavering resolve. The HR manager's eyebrow arched in silent inquiry. That took me by surprise. Your efforts under Mr. Reed's guidance have been nothing short of remarkable. Megan summoned a smile, one that danced on the edge of sincerity, masking the storm brewing within her. The moment has arrived. A transformation is on the horizon, a deception cloaked in shadows. Yet, there was one story that demanded to be told. Staying would only stretch out the unavoidable, a haunting specter looming ever closer. To remain was to subject herself to a relentless barrage of haunting what-ifs. To stay was to linger in the shadows of a promise unfulfilled, a haunting anticipation for an event that would forever remain just out of reach. She refused to be that girl. With a decisive motion, she submitted the paperwork and turned on her heel, leaving the weight of her decision behind her. Alex had always been a man of action, never one to linger in the shadows of his thoughts. He forged choices, carried them out with unwavering resolve, and pressed onward into the unknown. Thus, he forged his empire, wielding precision, control, and unwavering discipline as his tools. Ever since Megan made the move to another department, an unsettling tension hung in the air. The silence in his office was almost suffocating. Meetings dripped with monotony, each one blending into the next like a never-ending cycle. Gone were the days when someone would challenge his ideas with sharp insights, or respond to his playful jabs with a teasing retort. Initially, he brushed it aside. It was better this way. A truth that hung in the air like a heavy fog, shrouding the path ahead in uncertainty and intrigue. That was the mantra he had repeated to himself. Those were the words he had shared with his friend. Yet, if it was the right choice, why did it stir such a deep sense of unease? 2 weeks had slipped by since Megan walked away from his team. Daniel had barely caught a glimpse of her. In the dimly lit office hallways, their paths crossed only briefly, each encounter marked by a fleeting glance and a courteous nod, yet shrouded in an unspoken distance that lingered in the air. She maintained her distance, an invisible barrier between them that spoke volumes. And what of Daniel? He allowed her to take the lead. It was a moment that shattered his world. The day he caught sight of her laughter, bright and carefree, shared with another man. As he strolled by the marketing floor, his gaze fell upon her, and time seemed to stand still. She stood by the coffee machine, laughter spilling from her lips, her head thrown back in pure delight. Her eyes sparkled with mischief as she playfully nudged the guy beside her, the air around them charged with an electric energy. In the bustling corridors of corporate ambition, a junior executive named Ryan navigated the intricate web of office politics and unspoken rivalries. Ryan, brimming with youth and ambition, harbored a palpable interest in Megan. In that moment, a surge of emotion overwhelmed Daniel, breaking through his calm exterior for so long. It defied all logic. It unfolded unexpectedly. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Daniel was swept away by a force beyond his grasp. Envy simmered beneath the surface, a dark and consuming force that twisted the heart and clouded the mind. As dusk settled, Daniel felt an undeniable pull toward Megan's department, a magnetic force drawing him closer to her world. She sat at her desk, poring over reports, blissfully oblivious to the piercing gaze that lingered on her from the shadows of the room. With a deep breath, he finally cleared his throat. Carter. Megan's gaze shot upward, her heart racing with surprise. For an instant, her gaze danced with an enigmatic spark, leaving a lingering sense of mystery in the air. Then, her expression hardened, a chilling mask settling over her features. "Mr. Reed," she said, her voice steady and measured. Daniel's jaw clenched, a storm brewing behind his eyes. "So this is the game we're playing now? May we have a moment to converse?" he inquired. Megan paused, uncertainty flickering in her eyes as she weighed her words carefully. "I'm currently tied up with something important. I promise to be quick." She locked her gaze on him for a fleeting moment, then exhaled heavily, placing her pen down with a sense of finality. "Very well. What could it possibly be?" Daniel remained silent, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. As he stood before her, a wave of longing washed over him, revealing just how deeply he had yearned for her presence. "What prompted your decision to transfer?" At long last, he summoned the courage to ask. Megan blinked, her surprise evident as the unexpected question hung in the air. "Do you understand the reason behind it? Do I really?" His voice had dropped to a whisper, barely cutting through the silence. "Because if you think I'll believe it was merely for a change of pace, you're sorely mistaken." Megan let out a sharp breath, her fingers pressing against her temples in a desperate attempt to ease the mounting pressure. "Daniel, I can't." "Could it be the whispers that reached your ears?" he interrupted. It took her completely by surprise. Her fingers curled slightly on the desk, a silent signal that spoke volumes. Daniel's head dipped in agreement, a silent acknowledgement of the weight of the moment. Megan's laughter echoed, a sound devoid of warmth. "Then you understand that my decision was the only one to make." A knot formed in his stomach. "No," he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. "You couldn't have." Her gaze locked onto him, piercing and intense, as if she were delving deep into his soul, seeking something hidden beneath the surface. With a deep breath, Daniel finally confronted the truth that had been lurking in the shadows of his mind. "I fought to keep my distance from you," he admitted, his voice heavy with unspoken emotions. "I convinced myself it was the only path forward, that it would bring me peace. But then you vanished," and he froze, releasing a heavy breath. In that moment, a profound truth washed over me. I craved not the path of least resistance. Megan's breath caught in her throat. Bound together, silence enveloped them, a heavy pause stretching between their breaths. Then, with a whisper that hung in the air, she turned to him and asked, "Daniel, what are we doing?" Daniel's gaze remained unflinching. Uncertainty loomed like a shadow, wrapping around me, leaving me adrift in a sea of questions. I felt the weight of the unknown pressing down, a haunting echo of doubt that refused to fade away. He edged forward, the tension crackling in the air around him. "Yet, I can't shake the feeling that each passing day without you by my side has been a profound mistake. Each time your laughter dances with another." He felt his jaw tighten, a storm brewing within him. "It fills me with a deep, seething loathing." Megan's throat tightened as she swallowed, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. "I despise the way this makes me feel," he confessed, his voice heavy with turmoil. "Yet I truly do." A heavy silence loomed, an unyielding chasm that widened between them. Megan's gaze fell, her fingers clutching the edge of her desk with a fierce intensity. "Daniel, you are undeniably yourself, and I find myself in a moment of uncertainty." "Don't," he commanded, his voice unwavering and resolute. "Don't even think about claiming you're just anything." She paused, uncertainty gnawing at her resolve. The dread. From distant realms they emerged. He stood at the pinnacle of power, a CEO cloaked in wealth, and an aura of invincibility. She was an intern, just stepping into the world of her dreams, her career barely beginning to unfold. Could she truly convince herself that they were destined for something greater? Danielle must have sensed the uncertainty flickering in her gaze, for his next words pierced through the air with unwavering conviction. The following day, as Megan stepped into the bustling main office cafeteria, his voice pierced through the chatter, drawing her attention like a moth to a flame. "Megan," as she pivoted, an eerie hush enveloped the room, thick with anticipation. Daniel lingered at the entrance, his face a mask of mystery, concealing the storm of thoughts swirling within. Megan's stomach churned with a sudden, unsettling twist. Nowhere to be found, not in front of everyone, she thought, her heart racing as the weight of their gazes bore down on her. Yet Daniel appeared unfazed by the weight of the gazes upon them. "Tonight, I'm taking you to dinner," he declared, his voice laced with anticipation. "Do not refuse." A wave of astonishment swept through the room, leaving a palpable tension in the air. Megan's face ignited with a fierce heat. "Daniel, you can't simply walk away from this." "I can," he cut in, his voice sharp and unwavering. And in that moment, I had done it. Whispers surged like a tide around them. Could this truly be unfolding before my eyes? He stands at the precipice, heart racing, knowing he's never ventured into this territory before. Can you believe it? Is she really dating the CEO? Megan's heart raced wildly, each beat echoing in her ears. Yet Daniel, he remained utterly composed, his gaze unwavering as it pierced through to hers. "You can run if you want," he said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "But I refuse to run any longer." Megan's breath hitched in her throat. In that fleeting instant, clarity washed over her like a tidal wave. She was indeed. Megan's eyes were glued to the email on her screen, her heart racing with anticipation. Subject: an intriguing opportunity awaits. A thrilling opportunity awaits as a marketing associate, where creativity meets strategy in the fast-paced world of brand storytelling. A renowned firm, standing tall among the elite in the industry, extended an enticing offer, a full-time position that promised not only a substantial salary, but also the exhilarating potential for swift career progression. It was the culmination of all her efforts, the prize she had tirelessly pursued. As she sat there, the words danced before her eyes, each line pulling her deeper into a whirlpool of emotions, leaving her in a state of turmoil. Accepting this job would mean saying goodbye to Daniel. As the evening shadows deepened, Megan found herself seated across from Daniel in the dimly lit confines of his office. Her rehearsed voice trembled with uncertainty. I received an offer," she whispered, her voice barely breaking the silence. Daniel, immersed in a sea of documents, suddenly lifted his gaze. "A tantalizing proposition." With a subtle nod, she acknowledged the weight of the moment. "This is an incredible chance that could change everything. A formidable corporation, in search of greater rewards, endless possibilities for expansion." Daniel's gaze lingered on her, a silent tension hanging in the air, before he finally let his pen rest on the table. "Incredible, Megan." His voice held a steady cadence, yet his eyes betrayed a tempest of emotions swirling within. A presence lingered in the air, palpable and unsettling. There was a secret he was desperately trying to conceal. Megan's throat tightened as she swallowed, the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Relocation was inevitable. The stillness enveloped everything, a heavy blanket of quiet that pressed down on the world. Daniel reclined in his chair, a mask of inscrutability cloaking his features. How far must we go? Throughout the vast expanse of the nation, she noticed the tightening of his jaw, a silent storm brewing within him. Yet he made no move to halt her advance. He remained silent, leaving the word unspoken. "Stay." He made no attempt to sway her thoughts. After a heavy silence, he finally spoke, his voice steady and resolute. "You should take it." Her breath caught in her throat. Daniel stood at the edge of the world, the weight of his name echoing in the silence around him. "This is what you've worked for," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is your hard-won reward." Megan felt a constricting pressure in her chest. "But what will become of us?" Daniel locked eyes with her, and in that moment, a storm of conflict brewed within him, revealing a side she had never seen before. "Megan." His voice carried a soothing warmth, yet held an undeniable strength. "Never would I dare to ask you to relinquish your dreams for my sake." Hot tears welled up in her eyes. She steeled herself for a confrontation. She had braced herself for a battle, expecting him to fight fiercely for her heart. But nothing could have steeled her for this moment. His quiet decision to set her free. "Is this truly What you desire? Her voice barely broke the silence, a soft whisper that danced through the air. Daniel let out a slow breath, his fingers tangling in his hair as he wrestled with the weight of the moment. He reluctantly confessed, "Yet, it is what truly resonates with your soul." Megan's heart lay in ruins. He loved her so deeply that he made the heart-wrenching choice to set her free. On the eve of her departure, Daniel arrived to see her for what would be their final encounter. In the dim light of her apartment doorway, they lingered in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air between them. At last, Daniel shattered the stillness that hung in the air. "I'm proud of you," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. Yet it carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken words. Megan felt a constriction in her throat, as if an unseen force was tightening its grip. Parting feels unbearable. Daniel's fingers brushed against her skin as he reached up, tenderly tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Then don't do it." A melancholic smile danced at the corners of his lips. "Opt for a farewell that hints at a future reunion instead." Megan's laughter trembled, a haunting sound that mingled with the tears cascading down her cheeks. She wrapped her arms around him tightly, clinging to him as if her very life depended on it, unwilling to release her grip. In that fleeting instant, time seemed to stand still, and neither of them dared to make a single move. For even the deepest love could falter, revealing that sometimes love alone could not bridge the chasms that life carved between them. Megan possessed all that she had ever dreamed of. At least in theory, her new job felt like a dream come to life. With each project, a thrill coursed through her veins, the pay pouring in like a river, and at last, she was carving out her identity in the bustling world of her industry. To everyone around her, she was the embodiment of success. But Megan, a hollow ache consumed her, a void that echoed in the silence of her heart. Initially, she told herself it was merely the phase of acclimatization. A fresh city unfolds before me, filled with unfamiliar faces, and the promise of new beginnings. Each day brings a different rhythm, a dance of routines waiting to be discovered. Yet, as the weeks slipped into months, that haunting feeling lingered, refusing to fade into the shadows. Each dawn, she stirred from her slumber with an unsettling sense that a vital piece of her existence was absent. Each night, she lay down, fully aware of the truth that awaited her in the shadows. Daniel stood at the edge of the world, the wind whipping through his hair, a storm brewing in the distance. His heart raced as he contemplated the journey ahead, the shadows of uncertainty looming large. Every choice he made could alter the course of fate, and he felt the weight of destiny pressing down on him. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever lay ahead. She had fought to leave the past behind. She had plunged into a whirlwind of dates, buried herself in her work, and sought every possible distraction to escape the turmoil within. Yet, nothing could ever rival the connection she shared with him. For no matter the distance she covered, her heart remained tethered, never truly departing. It lingered in the shadows, a constant presence that had never truly left his side. On a seemingly ordinary Thursday morning, Megan's gaze fell upon an envelope resting on her desk, its presence stirring a sense of intrigue within her. Her name graced the front, etched in a familiar, elegant script that stirred memories long buried. Her breath hitched in her throat. With a trembling hand, she slowly pried it open. Within the confines of the envelope lay a solitary bus ticket, its edges worn and secrets untold, and a note that would change everything. The bus pulls up, its engine rumbling softly, but I remain here, heart racing, eyes scanning the crowd. Where are you? Time stretches, each second a reminder of your absence. I can almost feel the weight of the moment, the anticipation thick in the air. Will you make it? The world around me fades, and all that matters is your arrival. Whatever you do, keep your eyes wide open this time. Megan's hands quivered with an intensity that spoke of unspoken fears. Her heart pounded violently against her ribs. Daniel stood at the edge of the world, the weight of his name echoing in the silence around him. Months had slipped by, each one heavier than the last. Endless months, and yet, he remained in a state of anticipation, the seconds stretching into an eternity. Without a moment's pause, she sprang into action. "Hey, come here!" With a swift motion, she snatched her coat and bolted into the night. The city thrummed with energy as Megan raced through the streets she knew so well. As she arrived at the bus stop, her chest heaved with each labored breath, from the relentless pounding of feet against the ground, from hope, a flicker ignited in the darkness, from all that exists, and then her eyes locked onto him. He stood by the bus sign, hands buried deep in his pockets, his gaze fixed on her, wearing that same maddeningly serene expression, as if it had been etched into the very fabric of his existence. He sensed her arrival long before she appeared. Megan stood motionless, her breath caught in her throat. Her heart hung in a precarious balance, teetering between the sweet embrace of relief and the sharp sting of disbelief. "You," she whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and longing. Daniel's lips curled into a subtle, almost imperceptible smile. "Myself. You truly sent me a bus ticket," he shrugged, a subtle movement that spoke volumes, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders, yet he chose to let it slip away. "It felt just right," her laughter echoed, a blend of disbelief and an overwhelming surge of joy that filled the air around her. And then she froze in place. In an instant, the weight of it all crashed down upon her. "You idiot," she whispered, her eyes ablaze with fury. "You released me from your grasp." Daniel's expression melted into something tender. "I believed it was exactly what you craved." Megan swallowed hard, her heart racing as she stepped closer. "What comes next?" Daniel locked his eyes onto hers, a silent storm brewing between them. "In this moment, clarity washes over me like a tide, revealing the truth I've long sought. What I truly need is you." She drew in a trembling breath. "And what lies beyond? I couldn't care less." His voice resonated with unwavering strength. "It's not about the company. It's not about the opinions of others. It was never about any of it." He advanced cautiously, each step deliberate and measured. My concern for you runs deeper than words can express." Megan felt a constriction in her throat. For months, she had woven a narrative in her mind, convincing herself that they hailed from entirely different realms, that it was destined to fail. Their love, once a blazing fire, flickered and dimmed, proving insufficient to withstand the trials that lay ahead. Yet, as she stood there feeling the weight of Daniel's gaze upon her, as if she were the sole beacon in his world, a profound realization washed over her. Love was the sole force that had ever truly counted. Without a moment's hesitation, she plunged forward. With a surge of emotion, she enveloped him in her embrace, drawing him close. Daniel drew in a sharp breath, enveloping her in his embrace as if he intended to hold her forever. In the heart of a bustling city, where their journey had first ignited, Megan stood, and for the first time, a profound sense of completeness washed over her. After all this time, after all the distance, she stood at the threshold, heart racing, for she was finally home. In the quiet moments, love reveals itself, not through extravagant displays or flawless timing, but in the subtle unspoken connections that bind us together. At times, the journey leads you back to the one who was destined to be yours from the very beginning. Megan and Daniel emerged from contrasting realms, one a burgeoning intern, the other a formidable CEO. Yet, when all was said and done, it all faded into insignificance. For true love knows no bounds. Neither titles, nor distance, nor obstacles can stand in its way. It always discovers a path forward. And when it arrives, you must summon the courage to cling tightly, refusing to release your grip. If this tale resonated with your soul, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to Soul-Stirring Stories. We invite you into a world of stirring tales that capture the essence of love, the strength of resilience, and the profound bonds of human connection. If you enjoyed this story, consider subscribing for more to ensure you never miss a tale that ignites your spirit. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and prepare yourself for the next tale that awaits.